Good day, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Today I have a very special guest with me, Altin Gjoni. And I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation. Altin Gjoni is a professional musician, composer, producer. He studied in Albania, but also in the UK, in West London College. And he's got a career with all of the colors of the rainbow. You can start from performing solo, working in groups, having his own band in Albania and the UK as well. And above all, he produces very interesting gigs, performances, shows, and so on. And the cherry on the cake is that Altin this year has been nominated to be the chairperson of British Albanian Culture and Arts Association. So we're very honored to have Altin today here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Good. So, Altin, obviously you come here with the guitar, and guitar is your extended arm. Okay, tell us a little bit what's your background with the guitar? How did you start it?
Well, it's very non-glorious, to be honest, in a way, because my family, besides my mother and my father who listened to good music, was never music, in the sense we never had musicians in the family. The only one in the extended family, even from my mother's or my dad's side, that was into music was my uncle, who passed away when he was young. He used to sing, but he didn't used to play. So basically with the guitar I started very randomly, because I have this memory of listening to music, like being into music, from first grade to third grade, 3 years. I remember having this like neoclassical music CD, and I would put it on in the DVD player, like at home in the TV and everything. It was really nice. I used to like it a lot, but I didn't know why I liked it, but I didn't play anything. Music was like something external. Didn't know that instruments, I knew they existed, but I didn't know it was actually a thing, because we didn't have like proper music education in Albania. So I used to listen to the CD, but the awkward thing was that I kind of feel like I could anticipate what was coming next when I heard the song. So I kind of knew what was going on, but I didn't know how I knew what was going on in a certain way. So it kind of made sense, even back in the day. Then from third grade to 9th grade, I didn't listen to music at all, to be fair. I don't know what happened. I just remember like I stayed home a lot, a very nerdy teenager. Then when I was in 9th grade, my brother, who was 3 years older than me, bought a guitar. I didn't like it at all why he bought the guitar. I wanted my gaming computer. Like, why did you get the thing? He never played, of course, because it always happens like that. Like, and it was left on top of the closet, turned backwards there for years. Then my cousin came home one day, who was like my idol back in the day and still is in many ways, Armand, and he started playing the guitar. He was playing like the Metallica tunes, like this very easy things, but it was like, for me, it was like a guitar god, like something very cool. So I thought, yeah, I want to learn this. Then what happened was actually still very not glorious. I remember going to a party in 9th grade, like, you know, like the typical high school 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. parties, like with a very cheesy music and all that. But that was actually my first contact with music, was that after many, many years of ignoring it totally, because I was always a nerdy kid, into science, into things, into pretty much everything, but really not that into music before that. And I thought, oh, this music thing is actually cool. So I went home, picked up the guitar. I didn't have any guitar lessons in my life, because besides 2 lessons that I had with a professor, when I had those 2 lessons, then he never showed up anymore.
Oh,
it was actually funny, like, to be fair, like I still don't know what to make of it. He's now a friend, like, to be fair. I never asked him why. I asked him actually when he never showed up. Was I that bad of a student? So I picked up the guitar, I opened Guitar Pro, started like learning whatever the song with the zeros and the ones was. I remember trying to learn like the cranberries, like zombie or whatever, like stuff like that. So pretty much I learned everything wrong, but kind of then over time I started to explain what I was doing right, because I was always of the...
So you were only 14, 15?
Yeah, I was 14. I was exactly like 15 when I started picking up the guitar, or late 14. I can't quite remember. I think it was in the borderline of that in 9th grade before going to high school. I didn't get the lessons. Then I met a few friends who were musicians that I still saw as idols. Dario, like you also met Dario. He's a great producer now, a mixing engineer, a guitar player. Then I started to just kind of get into whatever I was at that point. I was pretty much a lot into metal back in the day, the old Metallica, the Linkin Park, or whatever, like every teenager back in the day. It was kind of the bridging bit between getting into music was first Linkin Park, then Metallica. Then I would just open tabs, learn the songs. Of course, I would learn everything wrong. I had this classical guitar that I put iron string, like steel strings on, and the action was this high. And honestly, like I can't play the guitar now. Like I have no idea how I actually did it. So I started in hard mode, like when I kind of started. And it was always the principle. Like I think that what helped me not sound special or in any sort of way, but just kind of sound more like me was because I kind of learned guitar as if I was 30 years in the past. I learned guitar technically. Of course, I had the YouTube, the Marty Schwartz and the everything, but my reference was basically just doing it on my own and getting things my way, which was always wrong, but it kind of worked. So over time, I just developed my own way of doing things. And when I kind of learned how it properly was, I would sort of adapt to that. So it was always like heavy periods of just researching and watching videos and everything, then getting into my own, getting inspired by guitar players, many idols. I remember Metallica in the day, then Nuno Bentecourt, who just got a Grammy, by the way. He's the guy who wrote More Than Words. Then I got a lot into like fingerstyle guitar because I was playing the classical and the acoustic. So basically like playing the whole arrangement of songs with the guitar. So technically, if you would play Billie Jean, it would be like bass, guitar, and vocal together. So I got into this sort of thing. And then I kind of started getting more into the electric, blending all this sort of stuff, but I was always in the principle of having a guitar. The purpose is to make music, not kind of show off and do something like that. So if you have a guitar and you can entertain 5 people in the room, then you actually made it. So it was always that sort of acoustic principle of feeling the sound and transmitting that into electric. Then I was super lucky over the years to have my mentors and my idols, who are people who I never met, but I just looked them up online, like Tom Bukovac, who's from Nashville, one of the best session players in the world, like his homeschooling channel. I just look at these people, get inspired from them. They're my eldest, look at them continuously, try to imitate, but of course then do my thing. Then started working with bands in Albania, starting getting into the mode of being a jack of all trades, playing a bit of everything, getting just thrown out there and just playing. So it was kind of, to be honest, a mashup, but I'm kind of grateful at the moment when I think about it that it was random in a way, not the easiest way to actually learn it or to get into it, with a lot of just unexpected situations. But now I'm in a sort of a position when I feel very comfortable with it, whatever you would throw at me in a certain sense. Like
So,
extreme stuff.
yeah, so I mean, as you are talking, loads of ideas come to mind. So in a way, you are autodidactic. So you learn by yourself,
In a way.
which is wonderful. But let's go a little bit back. So you were this introvert personality person, and does that carry on? And is there a division between you being, because I know you on your everyday life, you're just like calm, you communicate with people in a certain way, and then when you're on stage, you completely flip. You are a different person. You let your hair down. You are the proper rocker when it's needed to be a rocker. So tell me a little bit about that. Has that helped you? Because I'm sure that our listener and our viewers will learn to realize that you do not have to be this super extrovert, this person who just goes out there, but you can actually build a life, go and do things that you love the most, and by being yourself. Tell us a little bit about that. Was it a transition? Was it hard? Was it easy?
I mean, I can't really say hard or easy, because in a way, when it came to the playing, it always worked out for me in the sense the moment that I was playing. And how it worked out, like the sort of character change, it's kind of in a way like this. I think there is always like a personal and introverted element to everything artistic, because you have to be a bit in your own head. Because I think it kind of flows from within you and what you actually want to do in a way, what you want to transmit, and you have to be a bit within your head. If you're only out there, if you carry on whatever, you're going to get seen as front of the people, and you're only going to do what people want, in a sense. That idea is to do what you want. And of course, like being a lonely teenager and everything, of course, like playing music or everything like that is sort of an escape from reality, the thing that makes you feel a bit important, kind of being your own situation. You want to feel special as a teenager, but it's sort of kind of a escape from the problems of your life. Like me, like being in, like for example, like when I was in high school, like back in the day in Albania was a period of gangster rap or whatever. Not even like the cool, not even the cool rap, but like just the gangster sort of rap, whatever. And back in the day, I was too ashamed to even say that I play guitar. So nobody knew in my high school that I play guitar because it was like very like cheesy or feminine in a bad way to be a musician, like in Albania. So I would be very much in my own world. I only had a few friends that I could talk to. Now, there's also something else that raises the question that I don't think that people necessarily have a character split. People are as they are, I think, in every situation in life in a certain way. They just express different versions of themselves, or they just kind of keep themselves closed off in a certain way. Other people have said, I haven't said it, like especially for myself, is that even though I might be sincere when I speak, or at least I try to be the most honest possible when I speak, I'm always the most myself when I'm playing because I'm more direct and I'm more upfront. That people can feel it's actually true, or at least I want to. This is what I feel that people perceive in a certain way. I don't know. It's kind of it's a blend of everything, and it's also part of the training because when it comes to music, one of the things is I aim to get into the zone whenever I play guitar, and even when I play like a guitar or I pick up, I rarely play songs. I just play whatever comes in the moment because the goal is to make music. Is the idea.
Great.
It's
So
not just to play guitar.
now that you came to this point, can you play us a short piece or something that you either you've composed or something that you're just very attached to? Brilliant. Thank you. So now moving on, how did you manage to? Because obviously, playing an instrument, being a musician, then it gave you access to meet other musicians. So, what were the first steps? How did you go to gigs and performances or gatherings? Were you easily accepted, or they're just like, because I can see quite often if you practice or if you come from a proper institution, because you in a way you're self-made, and the majority of musicians are not self-made. We could talk here about Albania, but across the globe.
Everywhere.
So, how did you move on from the moment when you were just practicing at home, going into a few groups, and then being accepted into these almost closed circles?
Well, it's kind of the thing is, sometimes it's like it's better to actually just do first and then ask the question. So, and I think it's like when you see somebody who can play, like or whatever, and you kind of understand the thing, the questions come next. If musicians start to introduce to themselves, like I'm this one, I do this, I do that, I have this kind of feeling myself, it's kind of people can smell the desperation of the need to kind of be employed or to show off, especially in a big music city like London. So technically, for me, when I was a teenager, the first time I actually worked in a band or got picked up by a band was when I randomly went with my cousin in a rehearsal studio, and the guy with the studio, Clyde, he was like, yeah, you're a good man, like, do you want to play together? And we kind of started just playing endlessly. We rehearsed every day for like 2 years. We only played a gig, but it was like a good routine kind of. That was the period when I kind of started to really like learn a lot out of the pressure that I needed to do. But then like meeting musicians was mainly out of the, I wouldn't say courage, but the weirdness to just go for it and play. Because I think the best way to meet people is to meet them in a place like in London, for example. I met my band in a jam session and we just go and play. It didn't matter whatever the sort of jam was, rock jam, blues jam, jazz jam, whatever. I'm always the opinion, you just go for it, you do your thing. Somebody, if it's something moves, it will move somebody that resonates with you, which is important. And then the next step is to kind of try to just talk to people like you would talk to anybody. Like I'm talking to you now because you're a friend, not because you're interviewing me or you're an artist or a manager. Like talk to everybody like you would talk to everybody. Especially people who are professionals can tell when somebody is talking to you just because they want something or because want to show off. And the thing that I tell to a lot of people is that, because I have a lot of friends, especially that come over to you, hey, I'm a music producer, I've done this, I've played this and like that. And I always say the same thing, look, if you tell that to somebody you want to impress who's not in the industry in music, it's fine. But if you tell it to somebody who's actually pro and he has done it his whole life, you're only going to sound desperate. He's not going to pay attention. It's like just play, do your thing, have a chat, get to know the people. Just don't be afraid to just go out there and behave like you would normally behave. That is the best tip, and don't feel pressure like to be your best or perform at your best or whatever the situation is, which often comes down to like a discrepancy between sometimes classical musicians and musicians who are more self-taught. It's just this pressure of, oh, I always have to be myself, or I always need to improvise at my best and do your best. No, it's not that. Like life or performances, you're not like defined by a performance or whatever. Like doesn't matter. There are a few moments that are important, of course, but like if you're at a certain standard, you're always going to be at a certain standard, even at your worst day. Like it's always better than you think it is the idea. So just do your thing. Show
So
there.
practically, what I'm hearing here are a couple of lessons. Number one, you should really place yourself where the happening is going on.
Yeah.
So number one, just move on, go to the places, and second, be open-minded to not really push. So the circles eventually will accept you, or you can find your own place.
Exactly.
Is that what?
Yeah, that's exactly that. Like you cannot push yourself to playing with people, because something that happens is like when somebody plays because they want to show, like they go into a jam and they want to show or whatever, like you think that you're being good, but you're actually transmitting insecurity. You kind of have to get yourself at a point, which comes by practicing, which comes like some people meditate, some people follow other people who actually have tips for that, to feel good in your own skin, feel good about your playing, even though when you're insecure, it doesn't matter, like still have that feeling that you're doing yourself, you're expressing yourself in that, and other people will come. Of course, you're improving the whole time, but there's no point in pushing it. People will know when you're good. Of course, like that being said, you always have to make the first effort. Nobody will pay attention to anyone unless you make your first effort to introduce yourself into that. And that's pretty much it.
So luck, in a way, what you're saying is that, and this is a very good lesson for young artists. Luck does not come out of, ether, like the open air. You need to really create your own luck. Now, I've seen you perform, and this is one of the lessons that I guess other people could learn. You do not really, of course, you got your selection, but you do not really select where you're going to perform. You're an artist. If the music needs to be there and you believe in that type of music, you perform. So I've seen you perform in clubs, in small cafes, but also in big concert halls. So tell me a little about this difference, and most importantly is for our listeners to realize that being an artist does not mean that you're a classical artist and that's it. An artist needs to really be multifaceted, but also keep an eye on their own niche. So tell me a little bit about how has this helped you as a musician to develop a wide spectrum of playing music?
That's actually very interesting, because I was thinking about this 2 days ago. I was thinking the exact same thing, like, because after we did the gig with Sarah at the Apollo for the Albanian concert, I was thinking about the other gig, which was in a bar.
So let's make it clear for the audience. You performed at the Apollo Theatre in London on front of 5,000 people. And so you were like a guest artist?
We were the opening band, me and Sarah Payman, who's an incredible singer, English, she lives in Albania. We were the opening act for the Albanian tour, the motif tour. Oh, sorry.
Just the microphone, there you go.
Yeah. And I was thinking about the difference of, okay, you play this now, then you play somewhere else and do that. I 100% agree with what you're saying, because people sometimes have the fear that when they spread out too much, they do things too much. Oh, I have my own sound, I have my own thing. That is true. You can have your own thing, you can have your own sound. However, sometimes you shouldn't be afraid of going for it, because the way that I think about music, also coming from being a session musician and a studio player background, which was always like the thing I was known for, like my thing, is that you would get every day songs from whatever genre, whatever thing, and you just had to kind of go in there. There was a red button on recording. Instantly you had to kind of make up your part, record it perfectly, perform it perfectly, right tone, right touch with everything, and it should be ready. And you work with different artists, different walks of life. Now, at least how I think about music, the same tools, emotional tools, work for every kind of music. There's a sort of way that music flows. There are genres, there are beats that are different, but the core point is that you serve the emotional intent of the music. If an artist comes with a song and you're playing for that artist, your job in a way is like to support emotionally. So every note, everything you do emotionally supports that piece. Some people do it in a jazzy way, some people do it in a more rock way. It still goes to the same thing. The same tools in a certain way work. This is a part of it. And you realize that after really playing in a lot of records, really playing for a lot of artists, that the same kind of things work. This is why I meant by saying that a lot of people play guitar or play an instrument. Sorry, a lot of people play, but they don't really play the guitar, because playing the guitar, playing the piano is like playing the instrument, is something different than just playing a few songs. And playing music is even different than playing the guitar. So what I'm trying to do, at least myself, is separate myself from the guitar in a way, even though that is the thing that kind of is me in a sense, but think more about it like there's music, the guitar is only a way to make music, so how do I emotionally serve that music? There's a part. Now the other part regarding the venue is that I think people tend to see only the big things that happen. However, life is that there are big things that happen eventually every few months or even more, like in some parts of your life, but those are the big things. Life, especially of an artist, is made of average things that are the daily life, the daily gigs often sometimes, and then you have the few sporadic great things that happen, and this is for every level. This is for every level. Like Tim Pierce, a very famous session player in LA, he worked with Michael Jackson, Roger Waters, pretty much everybody. And he said this, look, he said, there's often a misconception. It's true that I played in all these records and I'm known for that. However, those records were one in 100 that I used to do. And like it was the middle class of musicians that actually made me work and survive and be successful. You have the sporadic big things. However, it's all the things that come in between that you have to put
the day-to-day.
The day-to-day, because it has much importance. Yeah. If you do the day-to-day well, the opportunities pop up. For example, the gig with Sarah at the Apollo, it was just that me and Sarah played bars in Tirana, like played shows in Tirana. I got to know her also as a friend, and we invited her to Cadare night. Yeah. And from that, it came, but it came after doing the average things, you want to call the average thing. And it is always the same thing, but with a different approach, like playing the bar gig, playing the Apollo, playing the church for Cadare night. It is always the same thing, because I think it's always serving the emotional intent. Of course, if you're playing in your arena, you have to transmit a bit more emotions. And practically, you can't play like, because you're playing in a hall. You have to really go for it, is the idea. And when we're playing in a church, it was just a bit softer, because it's just serving the emotional intent. Some places are magical. The Apollo is magical. It has like a certain vibe, the air to it. So you just serve the emotion of the hall, is the idea.
So what you're practically saying, and this could be, as I deducted from your opinion, is that consistency does not mean that you need to wait for the big happening, for the big event. Consistency is like living your life day to day with your instrument, with your creativity and your music, and having as much variety to really adapt or create within that emotion that the music gives you. Being it, I don't know, in a blues bar, you play blues music, but you put all your soul into it, and then you go and play folk music and do the same. For example, you came and last year we had a gig with Irish and Japanese and Albanian music, and you adapted to the three styles, which are completely different.
I cannot play any of them, if you kind of ask me, but it's kind of, you do your own way of the thing is idea. Of course, you can be a songwriter, because I have my own songs on Spotify, I have my own things that I'm playing, but if you ask anybody who's created something, like anybody, to define what they did, nobody actually knows. Because you do what you feel and you do what works. It's other people that say, oh, you're this. They see just a tiny, it's like John Mayer is a good example. Everybody, like a lot of people see John Mayer like the guy who plays the ballads, he has like 2-3 songs, because they branded him like that, like, or Nuno Bettencourt, like one of my idols, because they wrote more than words. Like, this song became such a hit and people would only know the guy for that song. But actually that's an acoustic song in between like 1,000 of his like funky rocky things. You do what you feel, you have your own thing. You can also be a working musician like I am and also have your career or your personal thing in the side, but it's kind of, it always goes the same way. You leave it up to people to say like how they brand you or they feel you. You make your plan, but it's not up to you like to say, oh, this is enough, or to judge yourself basically, because you're often very wrong when you judge yourself, the idea.
So before you play us something new, you mentioned something really interesting. You have your own life, and then you have your creative and artistic life. How do they merge, number one? And number two, I know that you are really good with social media, with marketing, with computers, and perhaps that came from a very early age when you were saying that you loved computers and you were detached from music. So have you been able to merge them both, or you keep them separate? Because obviously every artist, especially artists who are developing, they need to make their living. So how does one help the other, and how, let's say, your other things that you do, working with computers, working with in marketing and so on, help you with music, and how does music help you with this?
Well, it's because I think they both feed each other, because until I was 25 or 26 around that time, I had this big divide, because I thought myself, oh, I'm always going to play the gigs at night, then I'm going to work in the marketing agency or have my agency during the day or whatever I was doing. But it kind of didn't work out, because you can always like feel the call towards something, and that was music. But as I said, like, things are not as cut ever. I think it's that or that, even especially today when everything is kind of interconnected and there's not anything that you can do that's separate from something else. So when I was like 28 and I was working at this agency, I kind of started reading a lot online, and I was like, okay, like, why don't I have my website? Those days, for like 3 years, from being 26 up until now, I started doing a lot of remote sessions online, like Fiverr, Air Gigs, and Upworks. And I started to get really big doing online sessions. Like, people would send me remote tracks and I would record for them. But it got really, really big. At a certain point, I was like one of the highest ranked people you could get for guitars at the time. And I really loved it. And then I had this idea at the time, like, why don't I have my website? So I put up my website, theworkingguitarist.com, very cheesy name. And then I started just to write articles, because I had this day job, but I didn't do much at the day job. There wasn't much to do, to be honest. So I just started writing articles, like thoughts about studio musicians, about guitars, or whatever I was geeky about. I started posting them, people started reading them actually. And then I thought, oh, okay, but like, who writes for these like Guitar World magazines or this guitar company? Somebody must. So I started reaching out to them. Like, I opened an Upwork profile, I started reaching out, and I started offering like this marketing and writing service for guitar brands. And it was funny because I got to work like with big ones like Digitech, like chord guitars, who probably made this guitar, like they do many guitars. Like, I started working with them for a lot. It was a bit weird in the beginning, is the idea, because I always had this thing where uniting the two. And to answer your question, that one fits the other. Like, I think that all the good things that came to me, or most of the good things, came to music. However, a lot of things that came through music I developed and honed or approached them more by also offering other things, like with the guitar companies. Forever, I would write articles for them, like, it would be great. I would do social media for them, would be great. At the moment, I'm collaborating, working with Hisham, which is a hand pen instrument builder. And now I feel very comfortable like working with music companies, because it feels almost like playing, because you know the people well, know the thing well. Of course, like everything, 80% of the beat, even playing guitar, 80% of everything is technically boring. It's the 20% that is glorious, but it's always that.
Great. Altin Gjoni, thank you very much for being our host today. Wishing you all the best in your career and everything you want.